Friends, welcome to the 121st session of Legal Empowerment through Interaction Lecture Series. As always, we have new subjects, new speakers, new viewpoints so that we can deliberate, we can discuss and empower ourselves. Today, we have a wonderful speaker, Jyotika Kalra. She is the member of the National Human Rights Commission. To introduce the topic and subject, we have Nima Noor, who's the Assistant Public Prosecutor of the National Capital Territory of Delhi. In fact, it was she who was instrumental for getting this wonderful speaker. We recognize the presence of Justice V. Ramkumar, Justice Ramakrishnan sir, and all of you wonderful participants. Welcome to this session. Over to you, Nima.
Thank you so much, Shyam sir. Well, a very good evening to all of you. It's indeed like a family get together for me coming here in this virtual platform, and all thanks to Shyam sir, who has been arranging this for a couple of months, especially the most distressing times of lockdown. Well, what to say? See, like if you say if it's a legal interaction, I would say yes, indeed. But then more than that, I find the bonding that all of us have here every time, like a coffee time, we meet here, we deliberate and we discuss, we provoke, we invoke a lot, many things. And I still remember when Justice Nagamuthu sir, I think sir is not here as of now. I think he'll join, I'm sure, because sir just rushed in one day, one fine day, and saying, I can't miss logging in here because I can't miss any day where I can't see my brothers. So this is the spirit that I think Littles is really putting forward. That is this bonding that we created amongst each other like a family. Now, the task that has been given to me today is introducing the speaker and the topic. But before that, I would just like to take a while to bring out a very important loss that today the legal world has come across is the sad demise of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And it is so coincidental that this particular topic of today, gender mainstreaming, is so much related to her, and today she is no more with us. Now, I mean, I'm taking a couple of minutes, to just take to you who really this crusader was, who really this champion of women's right was. And I'm not using even women's right, as she rightly pointed out. It's not about just women's right. It's about the right of both the gender, men and women. And it is very, it is illustrated from the way when she started a career as a lawyer, I think she had most defended the men than women as a lawyer. And that is really interesting from her part. So there is always a misreading about gender only focusing about just one gender. No, not at all. Now, coming to the famous RBG, as she's called, the notorious RBG, for her famous dissents. See, like many amongst us, even she had a story of discrimination when she started a career in law, when she was denied a job in almost all the leading legal firms in New York, just because of one reason, she being a woman, and at the same time, she being a mother. So despite of the fact that Justice Ginsburg was one of the most brightest students who graduated from Harvard and Columbia University, now here begins the story of this legend. She was discriminated and she made her mind determined that she is going to make a very important theory coming up, that is inclusivity, and that is what she championed for. Now, all throughout the generation, as I already told, she started a legal career defending men for their rights. And later, when she became a judge over to the bench, she gave illustrious judgments, especially the most famous Virginia Military Institute, which was a state-funded institute, but only men were admitted. And it was her judgment which allowed women to also get admission in this Virginia Military Institute. Then followed the Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire and Rubber Co. case. And the same time, the important and the famous Roe versus Wade, where abortion rights were celebrated, and so many. And more important, as you said, gender is more than that binary that you've created, male, female. No, she even started to, her judgment gave, officiated same-sex marriage and furtherized, legalized gay marriages. So this is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the most celebrated quote, and that was, I would say women belong in all places where decisions are being made, and it shouldn't be that women are exceptions. And most interestingly, once somebody asked her, Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg, where would you, when would you be when would be there enough women in the court? And she answered, when there is 9, and that means full bench. And that is the spirit she made about gender mainstreaming, and she is an illustration for that. And that is so coincidental, as I already told, that today she is no more with us, and that's why we are discussing, and that's prompting us to discuss this important theme. Now, coming to the topic, gender mainstreaming, as I already told, it's not about just a particular gender, but it's about equality, it's about balancing gender rights. And that is why way back in 1997, when ECOSOC of the United Nations, defines this particular theme of gender mainstreaming, it said it is a strategy for making women as well as men concern and experience an integral dimension of the design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of policies and programs in all political, economic, and societal spheres, so that women and men, that's very important, benefit equality and inequality is not perpetuated. So the ultimate goal is gender equality, and that is what this particular theme of gender mainstreaming is trying to propagate. Now, I'm not taking much about it because I have got a wonderful speaker, passionate speaker with us, Ms. Jyotika ma'am. And I don't know, how to explain her for her passion, for her compassion, for her advocacy. I would say she has excelled in every of her roles. Maybe as a, I would say as a lawyer, she has been so much into it, like the famous case of the makeup artist in cine industry, when the most celebrated judgment. She was she was I would say the women behind that. And similarly, so many things to add on. As a lawyer, she had, then she, into an activist, onto the ground. She's associated with so many NGOs, and now she's trying to accomplish her career into the real role of as a member of NHRC. And it's very clear and evident she's a very famous voice amongst us. Why am I saying she's famous? Because I would still remember when I had to do an organize an event on gender discrimination, and I called Chaya Sharma IPS for that. And I just called up ma'am and said, ma'am, I need somebody who speaks from heart. I want somebody who is so passionate, who is not just, I don't want anybody who's, and it's getting bored, hearing these mechanical speakers, just vociferously speaking, reiterating the black and white law of feminism and that and this. And Chaya ma'am just, gave me one reference, and that is she, and that is Jyotika Kalra ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much, despite of the short notice, the modesty that you showed to us, that you're here with us for enlightening us. And I'm not taking much of your time, my time, just discussing on this theory, but I'm getting it to you, ma'am. And I welcome at the same time all of you on behalf, especially the judges like Justice Ramkumar and Justice Ramakrishna Iyer, everybody who is here to be enlightened with your thoughts, ma'am. So, ma'am, over to you, Jyotika, ma'am.
Thank you, Nima. I must say and confess that this is the first time I have heard a person talking so passionately while introducing the speaker. You took the opportunity of remembering Justice Ruth in the morning when my family, we were discussing, and she's so important that the selection is going to be impacted, or whether another judge would be appointed or not. This her demise has become a big news in America, and it is directly being affected elections. And even when President Donald Trump heard about it, and he felt very sad about it, these are the persons, the generation mainstreaming. It's more than equality, it is mainstreaming, I suppose, which is a better. What I was talking about, that the subject has been introduced so aptly, and rather than before starting the discussion over here, yesterday and day before yesterday also, I suppose, we had the talk and we discussed, and this gender mainstreaming, to some extent, the lecture was prepared while talking to Nima, and wonderful way of expressing the things. So I'll start with my subject. And Nima was saying that, ma'am, how would you link it with law, gender mainstreaming? And then I thought that I have worked a little bit to link it with law, because how the legal developments make this happen and or block this. So Simone de Beauvoir, a French writer, intellectual and philosopher, had said, and I quote, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. This quote aptly explains as to what the gender is. Let me first talk about the female biological aspects. Physically, women are different. They uh, they are like different features. Because of this, the women have menstruation, which starts at the age of 12 and which may continue up to 50. And this menstruation, as I may say, it is bleeding by a woman every month for 4 to 5 days. And to stop this discharge of blood, women has to use sanitary napkins, which absorb blood, and then this sanitary napkin has to be changed periodically to keep that this blood doesn't spoil her clothes, etc. And this menstruation is a process by which a woman is enabled to produce a child. Her reproductive system is complete if the woman is menstruating, and then her reproductive system gives her the power or the capacity or enables her to feed the child in the womb, to carry the child in her womb, and to give the birth to the child and to breastfeed the child. And as the practice is like minimum for 6 months, the child is only on the mother's breastfeed. So why I say so, it has a direct linkage with the gender mainstreaming. uh, One becomes women because this menstruation is considered to be an evil omen. During these times, the woman is considered impure. Menstruation is stigmatized, and not only that, everybody is very skeptical about menstruation. Nobody discusses this menstruation. And coming straight to the workplace, because when we are talking about gender mainstreaming, it's the emphasis is more on the workplace. Different legislatures ensure that her maternity benefit should be ensured during pregnancy. And but at workplace, what we find that the it is still being considered as a liability. We find that the recruitment of young women is avoided to avoid the payment for maternity benefits, etc. And why to go so back, 1979, the CV Muthama judgment, who was an IFS officer. The service rules provided that if you marry during the service of an IFS officer, then the right to do away with your services, because the household requirement of women are likely to impact her performance. Justice Krishna Iyer, while disposing of this judgment, very categorically said that if this risk if the marriage risk runs with the female employee, the same risk also runs with the male employee.
Problem again.
You have a recurrence of the connectivity problems.
Rule of Government of India, and these, apart from other things, these discriminatory rules also impact the gender mainstreaming. Gender sensitive behavior is need of the hour at the workplace. Is more so. Even our own Prime Minister, while addressing during the Independence Day speech, also mentioned about menstrual hygiene and made it a point that this should be discussed, this should be followed, this should be adopted. Maternity benefit laws should be strictly adhered to, and this only will encourage the young and talented women to join the workplace. Now I'm coming to the discriminatory laws, discriminatory government policies or the rules which were existing, rather some of them still exist. The first, as Nima mentioned about this Charu Khurana case, this is Judge Advocate General JAG. In this also, the recruitment rules provided that a married female cannot apply for the Judge Advocate exam. And I filed this petition before the High Court. And in that, the Government of India came up with the plea that recruiting a married female as a Judge Advocate General would cost the department more because of the maternity benefits, etc., etc. And the result was that when this petition was heard before the court, there could not have been any justification for not recruiting married women. As is being said, the laws are discriminatory against women, but they are more discriminatory against married women. So the armed forces, the Ministry of Defense took up to neutralize this bias. They said, okay, we are not recruiting married women, we are also not recruiting married men. So rather than giving a chance to the married women, they had taken away the chance of married men also. But I am happy and okay with it. Okay, at least there is a gender equality. And similarly, the pregnancy a ground for termination of service. The Air Hostess case of Air India versus Nagesh Mirza rules or the service law overshadowed the constitutional jurisprudence. I mean, it approved the termination of services on the ground of pregnancy, making some classification and everything. And similarly, the territorial army didn't recruit women at all. And in this also, I filed a petition before the Delhi High Court. And as a result thereof, or the consequence thereof, the women, not married, but the women per se, got a right to be recruited in the territorial army. Now the invitation for job also entertains the married women as to be employed in the territorial army. Other educational corps of Indian Army, technical corps of Indian Army, the room is not open for the women to join. Charu Khurana case, Nima has already mentioned about. It is Charu Khurana versus Union of India, decided in 2014. It was against the Cine Makeup Artist Union in Mumbai. She was a makeup artist. She trained from Hollywood, and but she was not given a membership to practice as a makeup artist. And when she applied, she got a reply from the union that look, we cannot allow you to practice as a makeup artist, because if we allow women to practice as a makeup artist, then everybody will start getting his or her makeup done from a women, and all our male makeup artists will be redundant, will be left jobless. And if they will be left jobless, their entire families will suffer the consequences of the male who was looking after the family. So all the discrimination which is being done on women, generally the excuse which is taken is that this women doing the job will be at the cost of men losing their job, and men losing their job is considered as as impacting the family, the young boys and the girls, daughters, and the wife. So the family will get disturbed. So with this plea, when I appeared before the Supreme Court for the first time, I just read that letter and the notices were issued. Justice Deepak Misra was there, and Justice Deepak Misra only decided it finally by holding that clause of the Makeup Artists Union Constitution is ultra virus, and that has to be removed. And then finally, the latest case where the 322 women officers approached the High Court provided the permanent commission to the women, but then the ministry came up in appeal before the Supreme Court. And recently, the Supreme Court has ordered for the permanent commission for the women. And while ordering that, Justice Chandrachud had said that women aren't adjunct. I mean, women are not only a stepney, like where need be, they should be used. And again, there also the defense or the logic which was taken for not allowing women to be given the permanent commission was the reasons were motherhood, psychological limitations, childcare, and troops being from rural background do not accept women in command roles. This is the recent 2019 excuse or the reasons given by the army for not recruiting women as a permanent, for not giving permanent commission to the women. And this law, I mean, at the judgments, they play a very important role in the society. At times, the law derives the social changes. Like the example which I have given for Muthamma case or for this permanent commissioner Charu Khurana case, the law has driven the social change by those judgments. But there are other incidences also where the law or the judgments hold back the social changes by locking older patrons of race, sex, and class into its place. So I'll just share some of the recent judgments from 2014 to July 14 to August 18, how the Supreme Court has dealt with such situations when they have tried to hold back the older patterns of race, sex, and class. It's July 2014, the Supreme Court in Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar had said that the dowry laws are used as weapon rather than shield by the disgruntled wives. And it went on to how the FIR has to be registered, how the investigation is to be conducted, how the bail application, etc., has to be uh, entertained by the judges. So this is, the victim of crime, victim of harassment, and especially of the dowry harassment, was used by the Supreme Court as a disgruntled wife. And today only I was reading news that female was murdered. Something. It is basically, yeah, not murdered. The private scenes of wife were exposed or put on the social media by the husband just because she could not arrange a sum of rupees 10 lakh as was being from her parents for the husband. And then in 2015, I only filed a petition, Social Action Forum, another versus Union of India, where we raised that concern that, for matrimonial or the dowry laws, every judge and from any corner of this country passes and directions to deal with how the matrimonial cases should be dealt with. I mean, they keep on giving instructions and giving directions to the police or to the ministry, that as if there is nothing on this earth except that women or married women are bent upon to misuse the dowry laws in a way that it results in spoiling the family system, spoiling the social system, etc. 2015 after Arnesh Kumar, and then in 2017, another judgment of Rajesh Sharma, another versus state of UP. The Supreme, it was also 498A case. The Supreme Court again came up with another new system of adjudication by creating a family welfare committee. And this family welfare committee was given the right to assess whether in this case a person is to be arrested or not. And it's only when the family welfare committee so approves the person can be arrested in the matter. And then, at this Social Action Forum writ petition was decided in 2018. And in 2018, when this petition was finally decided, the Honorable Supreme Court, and this was also again Justice Deepak Misra, he set aside the Rajesh Sharma versus State of UP judgment by holding that the wrong law has been laid down in that Rajesh Sharma judgment. And similarly, dowry laws and then role of wife and what is being expected from a wife was also the case of Narendra versus K. Meena, decided on 6th of October 2016 by Justice Dave, in which the husband said that my wife insists that I should live separately from my parents, and on this ground that a woman asking her husband that he should live separately from his parents, the Supreme Court held that it is a good ground of cruelty. It would be treated as cruelty and entitle a husband to get divorced. So this is how, if we start taking it as a gender neutral behavior, just imagine, can ever husband be given divorce? Can a wife be ever given divorce that her husband is not willing to live with her family, and the husband wants to live with you alone and not with your family? So this is the mindset, and I remember when I was practicing in district court Tisa Zari, 2009, and Justice Virendra Bhatt, Mr. Bhatt was the ADJ there, and it was a divorce petition filed by the husband, who was a postgraduate doctor, and the wife was also a postgraduate doctor, whom I was representing. And then in that, divorce petition, the husband had made a ground for divorce, and one of the ground for divorce divorce was that my wife doesn't cook the food for me. And Mr. Bhatt ADJ, when he disposed of this petition, said that this kind of expectation by a male husband who is a doctor and uh, uh, from a female wife, from a wife who is also a postgraduate doctor, only reflects male chauvinism. So this is, how different people treat the law. So it is not only the law, it is also the who is disposing of, which decides as to how it should be decided. And by giving this aspect of adjudications in the field of the dowry related laws and the role of a woman being a wife, now I'll come to some of the economic factors, how the women is being treated in India, how the female participation in economic is contributing towards the development of the country. So, World Economic Forum Survey on Gender Gap Index 2017. It is based on economic participation of women and opportunities, education attainment, health and survival, and political empowerment. So, India ranks 108 out of 144. And as far as economic participation and opportunity is concerned, India ranks 139 out of 144. Education attainment, it is 112. Health and survival, it is 141. India's level is very good. It is in political empowerment. India ranks 15. So I think the credit goes to the reservation in local bodies and Panchayati Raj after the amendment of 1993. So political participation, because of that, at the local level in Panchayati Raj, women participation, the political empowerment or political opportunities to women are more. Similarly, UNDP 2017 Gender Equality Index, rank of India is 127 out of 183. Human Development Index, it is 130, and Gender Inequality Index, it is 127. National Family Health Survey of 2015-16, 15-16 had come up with the research with their survey that the participation of women in work has declined from 36% in 2005-6 to 24% in 2015 and 16. And Niti Aayog SDG, Sustainable Development Goal India Index 2018, is 36, gender equality, it is 36 out of 100. The score of India by Niti Aayog in gender equality is 36 out of 100. And I may share some statistics. Parliament, women is 11.6%. Leadership in the state legislative assemblies, women is 8.7%. And secondary education is participation of women is 39%, where the male is 63.5%. And labor force participation is 27.2%, male is 78.8%. That is 1/3 of the male population. And look, we are in India, we have 543 MPs, and I think it is 62 women. So for every 10 parliamentarians, there is one woman, 1/10, whereas the population of the women is 49% of the total population. And this gender mainstreaming starts, and this concept, this idea of treating how the women should be treated starts from the very beginning. When the child is conceived in the womb, there is a great preference for a son. And particularly, particularly about the culture or the values which the people have, which says that it is only the son which can perform your last rites and which can get you salvage. So if you don't have a son, you will not have this, I mean, you will not get the salvage ever. So that strong preference for sons. And then when the daughter are born, it's being considered that they are like paraya dhan. We are only, I mean, bringing them up, but ultimately they'll go to their own places, they'll go to their families. So, I mean, whatever the persons may be very poor, they may not have the resources, but they keep trying to get a son, 3 daughters, 4 daughters, 5 daughters. Even recently, I have come across a family where the daughter is 6 months old and that is the fourth daughter, and still they're planning to have a son. This is happening in Delhi even now. And similarly, that this dowry system is also that social factor which obstructs the gender mainstreaming, that whatever may be the condition of the women, she is an IAS officer or an IPS officer, but and whatever may be very well qualified, educated, but still when it comes to marriage, it is being expected that the girl's parents or the family will contribute, will arrange for all the functions, and not only that, they will also give good amount of money in dowry. So in Delhi, what we can see, in an average middle class family, around 50 lakh to 1 crore is being spent for a daughter's marriage. So that has also become an impediment, that people feel like that I should not have daughter because unnecessarily it, it will cause me a loss of that much of money. So then again, the other factors after birth or marriage, but then women is expected uh, to remain at home. At times it is being said that it is for the safety and security of the women, that she should stay back at home. For any number of reasons, women is made to sit back at home. And even young women, when they get married, they are most qualified, highly educated, but when it comes to children, when they give birth to children, the first casualty is that they are made to leave their jobs. And it is always justified that now when she has a young children at home, when she must stay back, she must not work. And this because of this kind of temperament at our society level, at the families level, India tops in the world with the most qualified women sitting at home taking care of their children. And I may quote Paytm's Vijay Kumar Sharma had said that as an economy, we won't grow if we treat every woman as a homemaker. I mean, we feel so proud of treating women as a homemaker, but that can never contribute to the gender mainstreaming, and that will not also help in economy to grow. And this is, I'm quoting some of the uh, by some quotes by Miss gender as the new driver for growth. When we are saying gender mainstreaming, so it is in fact a new driver of growth. Ijaz Ghani, a led economist at World Bank, she had said that gender focused structural reforms can increase women's contribution to productivity growth, job growth, and improve advancement practices that promote talented women into leadership and managerial roles. Empowering of half of the potential workforce has significant growth benefits that go beyond gender equality. So gender equality is something, that has to be there. That is a prerequisite. But what we are aspiring for, what the women must be given, is the uh, uh, significant participation in the economic activities, significant participation, contribution towards growth. And Esther Duflo had also said, who is a Nobel Prize winner, that the women empowerment and economic development are closely related with each other. I mean, women empowerment will lead to the economic development, and economic development will lead to the women empowerment. And Annette Dixon, Vice President of World Bank South Asia, had said that in India, the women contribution to GDP is 17%, which is almost half of the global average, whereas the China's contribution, women's contribution to GDP is 40%. And Annette Dixon had said that if 50% of the women join the workforce, 50% of the women join the workforce, this could boost the growth of the country by 1.5% to 9% per year. And as I'm a member of the National Human Rights Commission, so I'm also quoting the uh, connection or the relation between the development and the human rights. So Article 1 of the Declaration on Right to Development states, the right to development is an inalienable human right by virtue of which every human person and all people are entitled to participate in, contribute to, and enjoy economic, social, cultural, and political development in which all human rights and fundamental freedoms can be fully realized. So, for realization of the freedoms, the protection of human right desires that if the person must get everything and participate in all kinds of things. So coming, I mean, to the way forward, because as we said, challenges and the way forward, uh, all the dimensions of the society, be it politics, employers, or the families, must think that it's not only the women's job. It is not a binary that women will do, will remain inside the house, will cook, will produce children, and the man would go out and earn income. The same thing, when the women is doing at home, like cooking or stitching, it's being termed as a women's area. But the same thing when a chef or a cook does in the hotel, or a draper who designs the clothes for women as well as men, the moment the economic or the money gets connected to the activity, it becomes a men's area, and it has no economic connection, or until it has no connection with the activity, it remains women domain. So the societies, the families have all to accept and to support women, and to share the responsibility of childcare to ensure her entry in the work. And family may be looked after by both the husband and wife, and work may also be shared by both the husband and wife. Similarly, the reservation is also a way forward, as we have in the Panchayati Raj and the local bodies. I may quote our neighbor Bangladesh, where 50 seats out of 350 seats in the parliament are reserved for the women. It is almost 14%. And thereafter, the women also contest from the general category seats, and they get chance in this. And there, the women is also, a reservation for women is also there in the judiciary. And similarly in UP, I think UP, I know the reservation is there for the 20% judicial uh, posts are reserved for the women. In UP, even the police services, the reservation is there for the women. So that, the reservation is one of the way forward, uh, by ensuring the mainstreaming of gender, by ensuring that the women starts working in with the people with the work, and they contribute in the economic activities. Even our vice president had just recently said that we must ensure adequate reservation for women in parliament. So adequate reservation of women in parliament, which the law had passed, Representation of People Act in the Rajya Sabha, but because the Lok Sabha lapsed, the law lapsed, we look forward for such kind of a progressive legislature. And so I was also looking at some of the questions which were coming, and just one question: is women right a human right? I didn't say that. I just said that human right is that everybody should get equal opportunities. That is, the women right is what, as Nima had also said in the beginning, that gender is not about women. Gender is about utilizing the resources in appropriate and balanced manner. It is not just putting all the entire burden on men also, that you it is not that out doing work. How can that be said anyway? Women, and which law can, parity means parity in opportunities. Thereafter, it is always the performance of the women which comes. And I think with this, I conclude that gender mainstreaming is the way forward. It is for the betterment of the family, for the betterment of the society, for betterment of the countries. I think with this I conclude.
Thank you, ma'am. Nima, can you just unmute?
Yeah, hi.
Could you offer your concluding remarks so that we can have the comments of Ramkumar sir and Ramushan sir?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. It was like, sort of putting across your journey as a lawyer more here than, about your works, So, on as an activist. So, but then I would just, like to add on a few things, what ma'am has, said, regarding where the gender roles, sort of, we cannot deny the fact that we have fixed certain gender roles, and it's sort of constructed and from the age old patriarchal norms that we have, and that is a fact and that cannot be denied. And when many of us amongst speak, like when it comes to gender mainstreaming, why is gender mainstreaming is more about women and less about men and other gender. And the fact is that we are being sort of subjugated from centuries old norms and constructed patriarchy setups. So but again the question that comes is, now like centuries we have been discussing this, we have a very established philosophies like feminism, gender constitutionalism, jurisprudence, so many things, we've been fighting it for long, but what is the matter that is haunting all of us, stopping all of us to reach to that power? This is a question. I mean, gender is a very interesting topic in every webinar, webinar, seminars, but why is it it's not getting executed? Why is it that we are not passionate enough? Is it that we are only with a mechanical black and white law sitting there wonderfully printed there? What is the problem that we are facing, in spite of having established philosophies? Is still a question. You spoke about reservation. You spoke, but again, this reservation is not a new concept. It's been there for long. But what is that is pushing us back, and why are we not coming up? Are we? So the question is not about bringing laws. The question is about attitude. The question is about the mentality that we take up. So how do you take it up? Jyotika ma'am, that one clarification I need. The way challenges is fine.
No,
Yeah.
no. That am I? My video is on.
Yes.
Yes, it's on.
Okay. The question which you raised, Nimma, I'll start with the family. You will not find, if you, when it was like 30 years back when I was to get married, the people were skeptical, marrying a lawyer. So that is a scare. There's a fear which runs that they are comfortable, they are safe and secure marrying a homemaker. And marrying a lawyer, it is something which scares them. It involves lot of challenges. It is not easy to have a subordinate, subservient wife who is there to look after you, to cook for you, to take care of your children. It is a comfortable way of life. Whereas when your wife is working, you have to work harder. And people prefer, okay, I'll earn, but as far as family is concerned, this role, this thing, the men say that this is my job. This is the job of a husband. Roles have already been decided by the society, by the nature. So it is quite justified that I'll take care of the family, I'll earn, and my wife will take care of the home. That is the mindset which is existing. I was talking to a joint secretary level IAS officer who is about 50 years of age. He said that, ma'am, this is the role which has been decided by the nature. That men will take care of the women, males will take care of the female. So this how long will it take? And I think it is basically the economic activity. He might be thinking so for his wife, but if he would have a daughter, a doctor or engineer, he might not think about in that manner that my daughter, who is a qualified doctor, is also meant to take care of the family. That will take time. That needs courage. That needs lot of commitment. That it is not only the money which is being contributed by my wife, but I must also be prepared to have a wife who has his own independent mind, who is economically independent. Similarly, talking about reservation, everybody talks about reservation. You said it rightly, but the parties can, like in West Bengal, this Lok Sabha election, 41% seats were given to women. And JD, this in Odisha also 33% seats were given to women. In BJP internally, 33% seats are internal organizational setup is being ensured to women. That is one thing. But when you talk about winnable candidate, one of the very senior politician, when he was talking about the Delhi elections, he said that we can't afford to give seats to the women because they are not our winnable candidates. So this stops the society from having gender mainstream. They think that a woman is a weaker candidate. She can't win the election. We will lose a seat. And similarly, the family, they think if the woman works, the family will be destroyed, the children will suffer, the husband will suffer. She is there to take care of it. And it happens, quite coolly, easily. The women says it with proud that I don't have two, but I have three children. So she treats her husband as her child, and the husband also feel pride in saying that there is a woman at home who takes care of my clothes, who takes care of my food, who takes care of my everything. So this is how we live this life. So expecting how the things will change.
Okay, I got it.
Who-
It's not about the
yeah.
mindset. I got it. You're talking that it's about the mindset that is really need to be changed, and so
It is a
unfortunately,
mindset. It has been structured like that. It has been structured so firmly that women need to be taking care of the family.
Okay, so that's what you're saying. So it's, I mean, it's
And even wherever I speak, whenever I speak like this, the question is raised that this kind of a discussion or dialogue is certainly will impact the family system. It will impact it will end up more working women means more divorces, more dissolution of marriage. This is what a structured, cemented thought is.
so it takes time then. So I think it is a men who
Yeah,
have
time, and the only thing is economic activities. If a woman is an IAS officer or is a judicial officer, even like you, a public prosecutor, senior officers or earning well, they will never be asked to leave the job because they are getting status for the family. It is being, everybody owns them, that my bhabhi is an IPS or my sister is an IAS. That is being owned with status and with this thing. When women have, or you become a member of parliament, that you need to reach to that level to become acceptable. Until you have reached that level, acceptability for women empowerment doesn't come like that. Women has to work hard to get empowered, and then her this is being realized or being actuated.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I am getting to the men out here who have lot many queries, like how do we do gender mainstreaming when one is always having the tag of a victim, and it's not even
No,
ready.
who says that? I never said victim can be a gender mainstreaming. It
Yeah,
is only when you are capable of contributing to the economic activity.
no, there is a notion that we always have, enjoy that privilege of being that victim. So unless we
No,
come,
that will never work. That
that,
will never have the. I didn't talk about the crime against women. I didn't talk about the rapes, the number this, number that. I didn't talk about that because if I talk on that line, it will never be gender mainstreaming. It will never be contribution of women in the economic activity, in the development. That can never be. Both the things can never work. A victim cannot be a leader. Victim can never be in a leadership position.
exactly, true.
So
That's
we are looking at a balancing effect. Ramkumar sir, your take on that.
Yes, Jyotika, you have touched upon every conceivable aspect of gender mainstreaming. But as in the case of murder and rape, the voice of dowry demands, dowry cruelties, including dowry deaths, dowry domestic violence, domestic and conjugal cruelty, all continue to be committed, notwithstanding all stringent laws, all punishments, all etc. What does it show? Is it for want of deterrent sentence? Is it due to the inadequate counseling of the marital partners? Is it for want of proper sex education? Is it for want of gender sensitivity? Is it for want of emphasis on women empowerment? Or rather, is it that too much emphasis on women empowerment has engendered a sort of negativity syndrome. I don't know. Despite, I don't know. Despite all the vociferous verdicts of gender disparity handing down from the Supreme Court downwards, there is an alarming gender inequality in the women representation in the judiciary. All our arguments for women empowerment fall to the ground when we look at the demonstrable statistical imbalance. I don't know where lies the solution.
No, but your question is an answer. You have touched all the points. Gender sensitivity, and it takes generations. It is not. It doesn't come in days, years, or one generation. It takes generation to realize the role of a woman as a family as well as a leader. So it takes time, and you have touched upon everything: education, gender sensitivity, social values, and capability of women. Nobody is going to accept women as a leader until she performs. So
But
this
how
all
long?
ultimately that is the
How long will we
time.
fight?
Nobody has an answer to that. It is a changing mindset of crores and crores of people. Nobody can have an answer to that. It's an ongoing process. I said generations. So my own mother was working. I mean, she studied in a hostel 60 years back. So that is the change, I have seen. At that time, even now, husbands or the families don't accept as a matter of pride that my daughter-in-law is going to work. They say that you don't need. So that is a pride for them. MBA hai, okay, but we don't need her money. So even now that is kind of a practice which is there.
See the judiciary, they hand down so many judgments in favor of women empowerment. But what about the women's strength in the judiciary? Right up to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Total disparity. What a
Generations, because there is a perception.
You don't need any
that women are
generation.
incapable.
You don't need any generation for that.
But there is a perception that women are incapable. There is a perception.
How can that be?
But that is a perception. That is a perception. As a lawyer, when I was practicing, I remember one of my juniors brought a client from UP. He was an old person, and when he came and sat before me, he said in UP, "Ye to lugai hai, but she's a woman." He never could have thought that I'm going to meet a Supreme Court lawyer, and she can be a woman. So perception is like that.
See, as a Chief Justice, if I am handing down several judgments in favor of women disparity or questioning the women disparity, should I not ensure in my own house that there should be, rather in the judiciary, that there should be no disparity of women? There's no question of perception there. On the contrary, perception is otherwise.
No, but perception motivates your action. You are saying there is no question of perception for your individual case. I dealt with the judgments, different kinds of judgments in the very recent past, passed by different judges. So every individual is different. One can't say that this is the era. In that very same era, different judges have passed different kind of judgments. So it is not like that. Everybody conducts, every male is like that or every female is like that. But in this society, for gender mainstreaming, the ultimate responsibility is that of a woman. The woman has to perform. Only then this performance will be noticed or will be accepted or recognized.
Yes, over to you, Sham.
Yes, sir. Ramakrishnan sir, Justice Ramakrishnan sir, your comments.
No, we are thinking about these things for the last so many years. Even at the time when the Vedic period also, women were given the status of a goddess. But I do not know how far we are in reality that is being respected is one question. But I do not know, because we are talking about the gender equality and other thing. But nobody is coming with a solution. Why? How to see, it is easy to say gender is not there because now opportunities are available. We can't say that the opportunity is not available for women. Education, the female children are being sent to school. In olden days, you can't expect. Now people are given education also. The women are getting education. Women are also applying for posts. And all those things are there. It is not the question of not an opportunity, but the question is how far they are able to exploit that opportunity and come to the mainstream and do it. One thing, that one aspect is there, but I don't say that all are not. But at the same time, it is not a lack of opportunity, one. Then what is the solution for this is a question. How to train them and how to make them, bring them to the mainstream. Who will take the lead? Because it's not that there is no law for us to say that the women must be given an opportunity to come up. And nobody opposes it. Even any political party, whatever the color of the political party, if you say.
But what about this permanent commission case, just recent 2019 judgment? The Defense Ministry had said that our troops are not prepared mentally to
No,
have
probably
a
no.
women
I don't
commandant.
know. I don't say
I mean,
that.
this is of recent.
But anyhow, Supreme
Because
Court,
of their family commitment.
anyhow, the family, ultimately the Supreme Court has come to the rescue of the women.
Yes, but I'm saying this is there, that mindset that women is more for the family. She should take care of the family. That
not,
is
and not only that, when it comes to the family life or real practical life also, when the person comes, when both are working, who has to sacrifice when the question comes? Normally, women will take the lead, say that I will look after the family. That also comes. Because nowadays we find the nuclear family system has come, not the joint family. When the joint family was there, the possibility of somebody else looking after the entire family and you can sacrifice something and you can go forward. But such things are not available nowadays unless the husband and wife both go together and they both respect each other and they also feel that both will have to sacrifice each other for the purpose of the betterment of each. Because it's not the question of one or other, but both will have to work together for the purpose of betterment of each. And also at the same time, the family the children should not be a sufferer. If that question comes, how far we will be able to balance these things, and then without the sacrifice of one, I don't say that who will have to sacrifice. Without the sacrifice of one, things are not moving forward. Now, when you see I can say the character backlog of the children nowadays, the diversion of the children going away, and they are getting into some trouble, and all those things are happening. Probably because they are not getting the attention of the parents. Is it not one area where, because I don't say that it is not, it is always, but both are having the responsibility to do that. But if that be the case, who will have to sacrifice for that purpose always comes. When it comes, women takes the lead to sacrifice herself and see that the family is required. Is it not? I do not know.
I mean, there is no denying the fact. The fact which you are saying is correct. Women takes the lead.
No,
That's the reason we have such a poor representation.
Even then, because one third representation is required, but the people are afraid of passing a law. Why? Everybody was preaching for that. Even a bill comes, nobody is supporting it.
No, it will be it would be at the cost of men. They will their own smart and which they consider them to be capable parliamentarians. They are scared that if women will be given a chance, it will be at the cost of those parliamentarians. That is the fact. They think that women are not capable and are.
No, I am not on that.
Or the society is, the society is also not prepared.
Madam, is not the question. How to make the society to understand, because we are only talking about the problem. What is the solution for that is the question. How to make the
solution?
Society...
It's a mindset. No, I have also talked about the solution. That is the bringing up of children. From the very beginning, the boys and the girls should be brought up in a manner that they think that it's not a binary. The family has to be shared by both. And again, the cultural mindset that women is not only to be restricted to the family responsibilities. These are everything. There is a combo plan for that. As I said, I am of this view because my mother was working 60 years back. So that's how the things are being accepted. Working women and no guilt, because my mother never had a guilt that I'm working and my children are suffering. Similarly, I never have any guilt that because of my work, my children are suffering. So that comes, each one has to change for that. It is not when China, women are contributing 40% of the GDP. How is that possible? So it is not worldwide. It is 36%. So how is that possible? We need only to follow that which is happening in rest of the world.
Yes, let us go for the change the society's mind. That only can, because that is the only answer it
Yeah.
appears to be. Not
For
that
every
because of
change,
now.
you
No,
know,
we
that
are
is-
no everywhere we are discussing about it, and also every platform, everybody was insisting for women empowerment for the purpose of bringing the women in the mainstream. Also, that is happening. But we can't say that whether the opportunities that has been given is being utilized by them also is one question mark. Even the Sudha
Yeah,
Murthy,
that
when
is a question mark. I don't say that is not a question mark, because I said that it is ultimately for the women to perform, for women to manage the family and to work. It is not easy. It is a
no,
difficult
because
task.
even when Sudha Murthy, when she was giving a lecture on women empowerment, she was telling about the fact that women should never forget that she is a mother, she is the family head, she is the performer, everything, and capable of doing things, because she should be a good advisor, should be a good what do you call, an administrator in a house. When she can, because normally we used to say, when there is a good woman in the house, you need not worry about anything about the administration. If such a capacity is there for the woman, why it is not being exploited by the society is the question. What is the
That is the
hardest?
question. It is the balance. I or nobody can ever advocate that women development can be at the cost of family. That can never be an advocacy. The family is a paramount consideration. Family should develop, but a balance has to be arrived at, that working women and a happy family can happen, and rather it may happen. You may find more example where the working woman has better progeny than non-working women. So that is a mindset which has to be there in the minds of the women as well as for the society on the whole.
Because a lot of benefits were also given to women, because maternity leave has been given, and also not that when the maternity leave was given, even for the husband, now paternity leave has been given for the purpose of joining with the wife.
Yeah, it
So,
is 15 days. 15 days leave, paternity.
the question is not that everything is in the question mark, and nobody is coming with a solution to the question.
It is not. Nobody can say that everything is questionable. When I am here, I have enjoyed the benefit despite being women.
No,
I
Even
cannot
like
say
in-
that.
no, because
I have been
that depends upon how you are
This-
getting support from your family. Suppose you are
So
both
that
sides, you are giving
so
both
many
sides.
things. No, it's a mixture of many things. Support from how was I brought up in my childhood, what the circumstances or the family I saw when I was growing up, what were the circumstances when I got married, how did I study, how did I practice as a lawyer. So it is a combination of so many things. And how did I rear up my children, that for any small problem I was not there to solve their problems. I mean, this is combination of so many things, and that has to be lived each and every minute.
Let us hope for the best, madam. That is the only
അതെ.
thing I
Yeah.
can only say so. Because
ഇവളുടെ വീട് നരകമായിരിക്കണം.
Yes, sir. Regarding this subject, we all know that it's very sensitive subject, and emotions and reactions will be very, very, what you call, acute and critical. So I thought I'll get a balanced my question from KVJ Rao, sir. I'm just unmuting him, sir. Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. And I thank you. It was a nice session. Madam, I can be the biggest example in the aviation industry, the sexist mindset. Till 2008, a lady air hostess could never become an in-flight supervisor on board the aircraft. I fought for them from I was a general. Now, SRM, we had Sri Dushyant Dave on board, and I did mention that he was my opposition, and this was the exact matter, where he opposed that a woman will never become an in-flight supervisor on board the aircraft, because that is reserved only for a male. And we fought it so much, Justice Muralidhar literally made me stand in the witness box and said, here there is a man who is the General Secretary of the Air India Air Hostesses Association. A man is standing up for the women's rights. We won the case in the High Court, Delhi High Court. We lost it in the Supreme Court. Ultimately, we had to bring in a president's ordinance so that they could come in. And that also, so much of bickering took place. Ultimately, I also gave a suggestion, why don't we share it 50-50? You know, like they wanted to go by seniority. It didn't happen. Today we've lost the post. So when two cats are fighting, it's the monkey that makes the most of it. So ultimately we have to learn to give and take at some point of time. See, in my industry, I have gender bias. LGBT is a big issue. We've a lot of issues, and I've been addressing this from 1997. I was literally castigated by my male colleagues, saying, "How can you support the woman?" I said, "No, I'm not supporting the woman. I'm supporting her right."
Waiting for her.
Yes, sir. Yes, Justice Ram Kumar. So it'll take a lot of time. I mean, today now I'll give you an example of only my aviation industry. I'll give you my own family. My father, he was a general manager in a company, saw the whole world. Now my daughter got selected for IIT and NIFT. My daughter chose NIFT, my father is upset. So I told her, Dad, at the end of the day, she has to be happy. 10 years down the line, I don't want her coming back to me and saying that, I actually wanted to do fashion design and you sent me to do IIT. So there are a lot of issues. I mean, like, I know and also I've seen a lot of false cases being filed by women in divorce petition and things like that. It doesn't take away from what we are discussing right now. Because my industry is so varied that we face all types of problems. So ultimately, we have to first understand, it has to be the mindset. We have to accept that a woman is equal to a man. And I'm proud to say this because my wife is more educated than I am. I come from the hotel industry. My wife's a microbiologist. She was working for Merck Pharmaceuticals. She gave up her job for my children. Because I said the choice is either between you, 20 days in a month I was never in India. So I said the choice is between you working or me sitting at home and eating. The choice is yours. I don't mind doing both. So ultimately she said, I will give up my job, but when my children grow up, can I go back to doing what I'd like to do? So I said, yes. Today the children have grown up. They're not flown the coop, but they're still with us. She has started her own business and it is successful. I help her as much as I can. I mean, I'm not trying to boast. It is a requirement. Anything is a give and take. In any place, whether it's marriage, whether it's work, whether it's any place, there has to be an understanding. There has to be a give and take. It can not always be only a take and take. So I totally agree where you are coming from, but at the same time, it will be very difficult to change a mindset that has gone down centuries. So it will at least take us another 10 to 15 or 20 years to really bring it back into India. Maybe abroad it's happened, that's a separate issue. But the Indian mindset, understand one thing, the Indians are of a varied culture. All of us have different ways of thinking. Some have the matriarchal system, some have the patriarchal system. So where like yesterday Justice Dave and we all say Kerala is God's own country. It's actually the women that are running the show there. I have seen that. Like if you go to Kerala today, I've been to Kerala a long time. Yes, Justice Ram.
You reverse the first word. Not God's own country. It has now become dog's own country.
Look, Justice, I wouldn't say that. But like I've lived in Trivandrum for so long. I've seen husbands are working in the Gulf. Who's running the house? Who's running the show? And it takes a lot of courage to do what they are doing all alone by themselves.
That was reason it was said women are the best administrators always.
True, very true. Because they have
how far they have been that is being recognized, that has been given weight is the question.
True, sir.
That is only question. How we have to balance these things is how to bring a solution for that by balancing both these things.
Sir.
There is always a problem.
Yeah, that is true, sir. Because like I said, it is ultimately we who have to change our mindset.
No, even if you say that I am prepared to resign and sit in the house and look out of the house, wife will not say no, it is not proper. You go for work, I will take care of it. That is the attitude of the woman also, because when probably this, as you have said, our society was brought up like that.
No, true, but we have to at some point.
No, we'll have to change. That will have to change, and both will have to have the capacity to show their the mental in their aspect, and prove their performance by which they can also reach the place. But one thing is, how far that is being exploited is the question. It is not nowadays. It cannot be said that no opportunity for women.
No, it cannot be said. I agree.
It cannot be said.
No,
how far it is being exploited by them and see that to prove their metal and come forward is one question is all. There is always a question mark.
That is true, Your Honor. I totally agree with you.
No, I mean, I would like to add here.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying
Sir,
that there
sir.
is a lack of opportunity, but
Sir.
the point is, till date, there is a preference for son to any extent. That is what my point was. Till date, for dowry, the women, the families of the girls are being made to pay the dowry and arrange for everything. So where is that preference for son? To what extent have we overcome that? That will be a solution.
Are we able to eradicate that vice?
No, that's what I'm saying. That is the solution. The day
No.
when the people will.
No, even the persons who are saying talking against dowry, when their son's marriage comes, he never says that my daughter-in-law should not come with any ornament of my the other side. I will take whatever she wears and come and I will look after. Nobody is saying that. Why?
Sir, I will just 1 minute, sir. The concerns raised by Justice Ramakrishnan, there is an answer in the chat box. You read the anti-women comments by some lawyers or some persons who is participating in this very discussion. You just go through that.
In fact, Jayman, those persons are seen for the first time.
First
They
time,
are not our regular
organized. They
participants.
organized. One person started. They organized and coming to insult women.
That is wrong. That is wrong. That is wrong.
It's wrong. And why? This is the problem. This is the problem. One lady who is known to everybody. She is or 2 or 3 ladies. They are narrating and the stories beautifully. These people. There are anti-social elements intruding and doing all these things. So this is happening everywhere. We can see this in the court complexes on the corridors.
Absolutely correct, Jayman. If you can just.
A woman lawyer is arguing beautifully. You can see the comments from the outside. So these are the system. We need not go anywhere. Just go through the chat box. Why the system is not improving?
It's the chat box today is a demonstration of how the mindset is and how it is working. And no wonder we are not improving.
Typical example. We need not go anywhere.
I said,
What nonsense are this is for the first time happening. We are on 121st session, and several persons. When you take the gender issue, people are inviting from sending the messages to others, sending the link to others, collecting like-minded people, and they are signing because there was a sudden increase of viewers here. Then they started throwing all these bullshits.
Absolutely
It's
right.
quite unfortunate. Quite unfortunate. That's and we for a moment we need not think of this because central government. Ma'am was referring to the women commission officers case. The most tragedy was the central government opposed. Central government opposed, stating some simple reasons. We are not prepared.
no, that happens everywhere, sir. It's not only here.
Yeah.
You see, the
Yes,
thing,
sir.
there are men who have faced problems, but that doesn't mean it's a generality.
That's what I'm telling.
Yeah.
It's not a generality. The influence they are showing there. These people are demonstrating there. Some people are neglecting children. Some ladies are not asking maintenance even though they are employed. These are exception problems.
No, see,
They're highlighting
even my case, I didn't ask my wife to resign. She was also working. She retired as a bank officer.
Why should
We were able to.
there are lot
nothing
of
wrong
couples.
in both working and
there are
looking.
lot of couples. There are lot of couples. Successful couples who are on top of the world. Both husbands and men. Their children also grown up.
Yes, sir.
They are also equally. You come to Supreme Court or come to Delhi High Court, come to any High Courts. You can have wonderful couples and their children also doing well.
Yes, sir. I agree.
So these are all excuses.
Demonstration is just a mindset. We have to change the mindset, and that is going to take us some time.
Yes, that's what I'm telling. When that's what exactly ma'am was telling.
Yeah.
We see it should be changed. You cannot have a switch for that to change everything in a day. So when one way we are increasing, we are going towards there. Sir, in in local bodies, in I don't know exact all over India. In Kerala, at least there are a 50% reservation. Now, after third or fourth time, now it's going to be 55 or 60% women, because since the women are performing very well in their constituency, reserved constituency, next time they are giving opportunity into the general seats. Now it is 55% in Kerala. So this happened. So you are see why the people are asking why there should be a because of, why there should be a reservation. When the women reservation issues came, some political parties saying why there should be a legislation for all these women reservations. The party should decide. Which party will decide to give seats to the parties which are fighting in the parliament for 50% or 33% reservation? They are only giving 20% or 10% seats to women when they are choosing candidates. So there was an exemption last time only, as ma'am pointed out, in Trinamool Congress in West Bengal. So see, somebody all that because why we know.
Sir, families face 498A.
And this is a country
which
was ruled by a women for long.
I agree.
Okay. Yes.
Like I said, my family has gone through a 498A case. We suffered a lot. But that doesn't mean I paint everybody with the same brush. It is just not possible. There has to be a moderate thinking as well. You know, like, so it is ultimately, like I said, it's the mindset. We'll have to learn to live with it.
Absolutely correct. Can I request Prem for your comments and...
Well, I have closely listened to the speaker, and of course she has touched all the nuances. And today I have read, I never read the chat box, but today I had the occasion to read the chat box, because people, they have been asking their doubts, of course, may be genuine, may not be genuine, whatever that be. Now, madam, let me just put it this way. Now, as far as we are concerned, we are Indians. And we are speaking about India because of this gender neutrality or gender equity or gender equality, whatever. Exactly. Now we are in India. We are in Afghanistan, Pakistan, or nothing like that. Of course, we have been with Afghanistan and Pakistan to the extent of women that was earlier. Now, let me just put it to you like this way. Ours is a constitution which is wedded to the rule of law. It's a democracy which is wedded to the rule of law. And the Supreme Court, that's a paramount court of justice, the paramount seat of justice. And one of the finest judges the Supreme Court has ever seen is Justice Arijit Prasad. Kindly see the decision in Sushil Kumar Sharma versus Union of India, AR 2005, Supreme Court 3100, that's the page number, wherein the question which directly propped up was quashment of 498A. And his lordship went to the extent of saying that by misuse of the provision of 498, a new legal terrorism, this is the exact word which has been used, a new legal terrorism has been unleashed. And mind you, this is an observation of the Apex Court right from 2005. After the elapse of 15 years, still we stand. Now, kindly see, there have been even number of judgments. There were so many judgments where the offense of rape, just take the offense of rape as well as the offense of any other sexual assaults, inclusive of rape. Do you really think in social reality, this is gender neutral? Don't we need balancing at those aspects? And take, for example, Domestic Violence Act, where Section 31, which is the one and only provision, I mean the penal provision, and kindly see Section 31 Clause 2, which takes away or rather runs away with all the fundamental rights of a human being, I mean especially of the male gender, saying that if a woman says something in the court, that by itself is treated as solid evidence and nothing more is required. Of course, I know that number of witnesses do not count and quality of witnesses, it's of course in the Evidence Act, but this runs counter. Now we can speak about this gender mainstreaming and all, but how far can this balancing be done? And we can see we have Article 14 which says about equality. You have 15, 1 and 3 dealing with females are given all the rights. I mean, they are almost, they are not on par with men. They have been put on a higher pedestal. And kindly see, even despite all these laws being made available for the women, still don't you think that women are misusing laws as against men? Of course, I'm not saying that men are good and women are bad. It's not like, I may not be misunderstood. But at the same time, kindly see, suppose a doctor or a professional who earns a very, very handsome amount, like a female, if she sues for divorce, immediately she goes to the court seeking for maintenance, saying that it's my husband's duty to pay me the maintenance. Then there is no equality, nothing. How can we balance this? Is it possible?
Yeah, let me answer this.
Yeah.
As far as maintenance is concerned, to my best of my ability, the maintenance law in the Hindu Marriage Act is gender neutral. The husband also have a right to claim maintenance from the wife. That is point number one. Point number two, I am not...
Only when he is physically disabled.
Yes, whatever, but it is gender neutral. Law is gender neutral. The husband has a right to claim maintenance from the wife. And Justice Verma committee report, when it was talking about the... It was referring to the this thing, sexual harassment, that ordinance had come. In that case, the rape laws were made gender neutral. This Verma committee report, before after Nirbhaya, that ordinance had come. That so there is a progress. Even this POCSO Act, the POCSO which deals with the sexual offences against the children, it is a gender neutral act. In this, be it a male or a female, they are they are accused. So that gender neutrality against women is propping up by way of different laws. As I said, POCSO, women is equally held guilty for sexual harassment of a child. So this is, if it is so happening, if a woman is acting or harassing somebody, some male, doing some sexual violences against the male, the law has to come and law must come. As far as that is considered, there is no excuse, there is no need for that it should remain gender neutral. If those kinds of situations are cropping up, let there be a law. Let the man go in the witness box and state against the women, and let the women be punished if there is sexual harassment against the women. And it is not quite far off. I think with women getting at the powerful positions, empowered women, the balance can tilt, and we might have a law where the women is being held guilty for the sexual offences against men. That if it is there, it must come.
And madam, of course, to conclude, this gender mainstreaming, what I feel, because I have to be very frank, very truthful. As far as what I feel, even going by your talk, or I have read certain articles also, because this is a sort of a fantastic development which you can call in a feminist theory. It is rather what I call is a feminist tool which is projected merely to overcome or merely to suppress the rights of man, I mean the male gender. Because gender mainstreaming means, see, in the earlier days, as Justice Ramakrishnan pointed out, even during the Vedic period, women, they were treated as goddess. And kindly see, the framers of the constitution, they enacted Article 15 based on the peculiar concept that in Sanskrit, a woman is termed as Abala, which means she is a weaker sex. Now you say we are equal to men, and now no more the women, they are Abalas. Maybe physically, of course, I would accept. But see, they are no more Abalas. So do you again need all this kind of, laws which support the female? And if normally...
No, you please look at the cases. Listen, you look at the cases of rape which are being filed day in and day out. You read the newspapers. A woman or girl is raped by the father, is raped by the cousin, or raped by anybody else. I mean, this is the data which is there. The rape against women, these are the data. Even this COVID time, the news were there that a woman is raped in the ambulance, women is raped in the hospital. So this, I didn't touch that point, but that's a fact. Abla, when you are saying it's no more an Abla, I don't want to go anything further on that. If you think that Abla is no more Abla, then please get the NCRB data and see how many crimes against women are there, rape is there, and how.
I'll tell you one thing. In the NCRB, you would be having how many women get raped. Why? Because rape is an offense. You won't have anything about men getting raped because it is not an offense. Things are happening that way also.
I'm saying if it is happening that way, there must be a law to address it. You must raise that point, that make a law where women who are committing rape, they must be punished. I have no doubt about it.
So,
let there be a law.
So
let there be a law to that.
That was my question. So is this gender mainstreaming, is it practically, is it wise to carry it forward? Because we know in our democracy, it's never possible, at least for another 100 years. I'm sure about that there won't be any such law. Now, my point is whether gender mainstreaming is practical. I feel it is highly impractical because you have to distinguish between gender equality and gender equity. Where do we stand, first of all? Are you canvassing gender equality or are you on gender equity?
I'm saying gender mainstreaming. Let the women be there and in the mainstream economic activities at the leadership positions. I think that's my point and I stand by it.
Exactly. Gender mainstreaming means you are going to having the balancing of the rights between both the genders. I mean, between, now we have the third gender also. Balancing the
mainstreaming is to be in the mainstream, to be at the leadership positions, to be in the economic activities. That is mainstreaming to my understanding.
Prem, I would
to be the member of parliament, to be the judges.
I think we have an answer in our constitution itself, like Article 14, even though it speaks about equality, it only says that equal should be treated equally and not unequal.
Treated equally, yes. I know, I'm aware of that.
No, I was just trying to get a quietus of our the debate that's going on, in the sense like we require laws because laws gives some sort of discipline and pattern and articulation of what the it's something known as the quintessence of the common sense of the society, what the society requires. So answering the felt need of the society, that is what legislation is supposed to be. I hope that's the way it is happening. Then the fact remains that these laws, which are very strong and once invoked, the least possible defenses are available, are being indiscriminately misused by unscrupulous persons, male or female. Maybe it's being filed by
and that it is not the female which misuses the law. It is the entire family which consists of the males, the powerful lawyers.
That's the point I was
saying. Why do you say that? Why do you say that? There are ever so many instances of false implication by women.
No, by women, but they are supported by men. That's what I'm saying. By women, but with the help and support of men.
Now you are not on mainstreaming. See, immediately the balance tilted. Just see, your emotions worked and you went against men now. See, this is what I say.
No, I didn't say. Yes. No, I am not saying went against men. I am saying when it is a question of misusing the law. Can a woman alone misuse the law? She is being supported by the family, she is being supported by a lawyer.
No, I would only request that let us have an objective analysis. We are not trying to decry or what do you call one side or the other, or we are not trying to say that one is good or bad. We are just trying to face the stark reality. The reality is that, okay, forget about female, male, etc. There are laws to protect children, POCSO. And that is being
no, even law commission, even law commission had come up with this reports on vote 498A. He said, where is the data to show that the law is being misused? This is not my version. This is law commission's version. It said, where is the data to show that law is being misused?
No, madam.
Which research, which analysis has come up with that report?
No, madam, let me tell you. There you are thoroughly wrong. I will tell you why 498A still stands, or why this feminine law still stands. We have Mafatlal Industries case, that is a 1997 decision by a bench of 9 judges, where it was held that possibility of abuse of a provision by those in charge of administering it cannot be a ground for holding that provision procedurally or substantively unreasonable, which again was a decision which has been upheld by so many other judgments. Only because of this particular decision, this possibility of abuse of a statute, otherwise which is valid, does not impart to it any element of invalidity. That is why time and again the Supreme Court did not do away with this section 498A as well as the other feminine laws.
Prem, to answer to many,
it would have been gone. It would have been gone.
Prem, 1 second. To answer to many of the queries and many of the I won't say that the remarks that has been made in the chat box. I can only say one thing. We are aggrieved by what? A law being misused. Or that in fact I believe is a quintessence of the entire thing. So let us see, if the law is bad, whom you'll have to blame? The law is made by the legislature. Legislature is made by us. If you have got anything problem with any law, you need not go any further. Look into the mirror. You, every one of us is responsible for that. If you can't have a polity, if you can't have a leadership that answers to the requirement, the felt need of the society, we'll have to suffer. Ma'am, it was a wonderful presentation of the subject and evoked so much of responses in the sense like, I mean, we may be excused for what has been, we are not in control of the chat box. So I would say that you need not mind about the chat box, but the way in which responses was evoked and way in which the debate went on. Mainstreaming is what this is, in the sense like at least arguments were mainstream. I mean, we were balancing the arguments, and end of the day, if there are some defects, if there are any deficiencies, and if you got a grievance, this is a platform only to discuss, deliberate, and empower ourselves with the points. And with those points, each and every one of you, those who have posted, those who have not posted in the chat box, those who are participant, and those who might see in the YouTube or somewhere else, each and everyone has got a responsibility, I believe, to take up the issues that is bothering or plaguing the country, and to see to that there are some sort of, I mean, raising issues, raising questions is very easy. Finding solution is next to impossible. I would only request, if we meet again tomorrow, let us all contemplate on these issues that has been raised. The way in which reactions have come in shows that this is something that is to be deliberated and discussed in detail, and I'm sure that something will come out of that.
And one more second. Madam, I may not be misunderstood. I respect your views, but I cannot totally agree. That's what I said. I respect your views.
Absolutely. But of course,
so my views are all based on data.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything from my own side. It is all, I quoted the judgment.
Madam, no. One thing is that NCR bad data only says how many cases have been filed.
Correct.
How many cases have been found to be genuine or not. That data is not there.
Ramashan sir,
it was on the point.
No, I'm not. It's not a point of discussion here. We will have to see that is a thing is required. Empowerment of women is required.
Absolutely.
They will have to come for the mainstream. There is no dispute about it. Who will bell the cat and how it can be done? What are the solutions for bringing them the mainstream to see that they are also coming up like men?
On the lighter vein, I'll just say something about statistics. If you are on statistics, the volume of milk produced in the country and take the number of infants, then logistically, each infant should get 5 liters of milk every day. I'll show you at least 1 million children who has not seen milk at all. So statistics at times will be very deceptive.
Even the children are getting only the powder milk. Powder milk, not the real milk.
Yes,
Can be gluttons. There can be gluttons also.
No. So tomorrow we have Professor Dr. B.T. Kaul. He will be dealing with the subjects, rules of interpretation of statute and role of internal and external aids. Today, such sparks the way in which the discussions went, that shows the subject and the way it was presented. We are indeed indebted to you, Jyotika ma'am, for introducing the subject and invoking this sort of good reactions, in the sense like at least everybody was involved and these thoughts will carry on. And Nima, thank you very much for getting this wonderful speaker and that wonderful introduction and summing up on your part. Ramushan sir and Justice Ramkumar sir, thank you for a valuable presence, and all those wonderful persons who has got a flavorful language and the way in which you posted in the chat box. I would say that keep it up. There are other platforms also available. You can vent your anger there also. Don't be satisfied with these things, because you'll have to take it along, because you are entitled to your opinion. We are entitled to our opinion. And hopefully all these opinions together, let the country rise to higher endeavors. Thank you very much. Till we meet again tomorrow, let there be better justice and mainstreaming.
Thank you.
Thank you.